You walk out to the gravel driveway in the morning and there they are. Small green tufts of grass and weeds pushing up through every crack, every joint, every gap in the gravel. You walked it clean 2 weeks ago. Today they are back. By next week, they will be ankle high. By the end of the summer, they will have taken the whole driveway back if you do not do something. And the fence line behind the barn is worse. Brambles, vines, sprawling grass weaving up through the wire. Every one of them needing to be hand-pulled or sprayed or cut down before the property looks neglected. You walk to the hardware shop and you stand in the herbicide aisle. Bottles of Roundup, $15 to $30 each. Bottles of glyphosate and dequat combinations for $40. Bottles of long residual soil sterilizers that promise a full year of nothing growing for $45. The man behind the counter tells you these are the only things that really work. You walk out with a bottle, spray it, and 3 months later the weeds are back and you are spending $45 again. And every spring for years now, you have been spending $200 or $300 on commercial weed killers, and the weeds keep coming back. Now, I want you to sit with this. There are 6 honest old methods of killing weeds that have been used by careful farmers in this country since before any commercial herbicide existed that cost almost nothing, that work as well as the bottles in the hardware shop for most jobs, and that the weed killer companies have no reason to teach you because there is no money in any of them. My grandfather killed weeds the same way his grandmother killed weeds, the same way the careful farming folk have killed weeds for 150 years. And every one of those methods still works today exactly the same as it always did. Today, I am going to walk you through the 6 honest methods. The pantry vinegar recipe, the vinegar salt mix for fence lines, boiling water from the kettle, the propane flame torch, the newspaper and mulch smothering for problem patches, and the simple business of pulling them out after the rain when the soil is soft. All 6 work. Each one fits a different situation. Knowing which to reach for is the whole skill. I will be honest with you about the bold words in the title. Folks will tell you, stop them for good. The plain truth is, there is no honest way to keep weeds from coming back forever in this country because the seeds blow in on the wind every spring and the birds carry them in from the next field over. But these 6 methods will knock down what you have, keep your fence lines and driveways clear for a full season, and save you the $200 a year you have been spending on bottles at the hardware shop. That is the honest mass. Now let me show you how it is done. The first method is the strong vinegar plus washing up liquid. Plain pantry white vinegar from the supermarket is 5% acetic acid, not strong enough to do much against an established weed. What you want for serious weed killing is what they call horticultural strength vinegar, 20 to 30% acetic acid. You will find it at the hardware shop or garden center sold in gallon jugs for $15 to $20. 1 gallon will treat a great many weeds. Here is the chemistry plain. Acetic acid at 20% or higher draws the water out of plant tissue, breaks down the waxy cuticle on the leaves, and burns the foliage within hours. On a hot sunny day, you will see the weeds start to brown within the first hour and be completely toasted by the end of the afternoon. Purdue University Extension has tested this carefully and confirmed a kill rate of 85% on above-ground weed tissue at all growth stages with 20% or stronger vinegar. Real science, real results. The recipe: 1 gallon of 20 to 30% vinegar. Add about 2 tablespoons of plain washing up liquid. Any brand will do. The soap is just there as a surfactant to help the vinegar stick to the waxy leaves instead of running off. Stir gently. Pour into a clean garden sprayer. Apply on a sunny day with no rain in the forecast for at least 24 hours. Spray the weeds directly, soaking the leaves until the solution drips off. Within an hour, the leaves curl. Within 4 hours, they brown. Within a day, they are crisp and dead-looking. The limitation of this method is honest. The vinegar burns the foliage, but does not always reach down to the root. Small weeds with shallow roots, the kind you find pushing up through driveway cracks, usually die completely. Larger established weeds with deep root systems, dandelions, dock, thistle, established crabgrass, will brown out on top and then slowly regrow from the surviving root within 2 to 3 weeks. For those, plan to spray 2 or 3 times over the growing season, each time when new growth appears. This method is best for flowerbed clearing, driveway cracks, walkway joints, and small annual weeds. Genuinely useful, cheap, on character. The second method is the same recipe with one addition: salt. For places where you want nothing growing back for the rest of the season, gravel driveways, fence lines, the gaps between paving slabs, the cracks of a pavement, add salt to the vinegar mix. The recipe: 1 gallon of 20 to 30% vinegar, 2 tablespoons of washing up liquid, and 1 full cup of plain table salt or rock salt. Mix thoroughly until the salt is fully dissolved. The salt is what gives this mix its long-lasting kill. Here is the chemistry, plain. Salt is a desiccant, meaning it draws water out of plant tissue and out of the surrounding soil. Where the salt soaks into the ground, the soil becomes too saline for plants to take up water through their roots, and any seed that lands there cannot germinate. The salt does not break down in the soil the way vinegar does. It persists. On a typical sprayed driveway crack, you will get 6 to 12 weeks of nothing growing back. With repeated applications through the season, you can keep an area essentially bare for a full year. 2 honest safety words about the salt method because they matter. 1, salt does not stay where you put it. Rain washes it, snow melts carry it. On sloping ground, salt drift can damage flower beds, lawn edges, and tree roots downhill from where you sprayed. I have seen folks salt a fence line, and a year later watch the maple tree 40 ft away yellow and start to die because the salt reached its root system through groundwater. Use this method only where you want nothing growing for a long time, and only where the runoff cannot reach plants you want to keep. 2, salted ground stays salted. If you ever decide later that you want to plant something where you sprayed, a hedge along the fence line, a tree, even grass, the salt will keep it from growing for years. The only way to undo salt damage is to wait it out for many seasons of rain or to dig up and replace the soil. Choose your spots with care. Used on the right spots, driveway cracks, gravel around the post box, fence lines you never want to plant against, this is one of the most effective and cheapest weed methods known. The old folks use the same recipe. Costs about $2 per gallon of mix, kills small weeds within hours, keeps the spot bare for months. The third method is the simplest of all: boiling water from the kettle. This one I want you to take seriously, even though it sounds too simple to be true. Plain boiling water poured directly on a weed kills it. No chemicals, no spraying, no drift, just hot water from your hob. The chemistry is the same as the flame torch we will get to in a moment. Heat ruptures plant cells, denatures the proteins, and cooks the plant from the inside out. The water and sap inside the cells boil and expand and burst the cell walls. The plant goes from green to limp within hours, fully dead within a day. The roots near the surface are cooked too, which is why this method actually does better than vinegar at reaching the root on small weeds. The method: put your kettle on the hob, bring it to a hard rolling boil. Carry it carefully to the weed you want to kill. Pour the boiling water slowly and directly on the weed, soaking the foliage in the base of the plant. 1 full kettle handles about 3 or 4 good-sized weeds or a stretch of driveway cracks about 2 feet long. Safety word: plainly. Boiling water burns skin instantly and badly. Wear closed-toe boots, wear long trousers. Carry the kettle with 2 hands, with the pour spout pointed away from your body, and pour slowly so it does not splash back. Never pour on a windy day where the steam can blow back on your face. Never let a child near the kettle while it is being used outside. A spilled kettle of boiling water on a foot or a leg is a serious burn. Treat the kettle with the respect it deserves. This method costs literally nothing beyond the gas or electricity to boil the water. It works best on driveway cracks, walkway joints, gravel paths, and small isolated weeds you can target precisely. It is non-selective. It will kill anything green it touches. So, do not pour boiling water on a weed growing in your lawn unless you want a dead patch around it. The careful U.S. Botanic Garden plant specialists confirm this method as one of the most genuinely effective non-chemical weed killers for spot use. The Romans were using this method 2,000 years ago. The old folks knew. The fourth method is the propane flame torch. This is the upgrade of the boiling water method and one of the best tools any homestead can own. A handheld propane torch connected to a standard 20 lb propane cylinder with a long wand and an adjustable flame nozzle. You walk the area and pass the flame quickly over each weed for about a second. That is all. You are not setting the weed on fire. You are giving it a brief intense heat shock that ruptures its cells. The leaves wilt within minutes, brown by the next day, and dead by the end of the week. The University of Minnesota Extension and the Iowa State Extension both confirm this as one of the most genuinely effective non-chemical weed methods, especially for broadleaf annual weeds in driveway cracks, gravel paths, and around the edges of garden beds. A flame weeder costs about $40 to $100 at any hardware shop or agricultural supplier. Add a 20 lb propane cylinder and you have all the equipment you need. Propane lasts a long time on this use. A full cylinder handles many weeding sessions across a season. 5 honest safety words for the flame torch, because this one matters most of all in our 6 methods. 1. Wear leather boots, long trousers, gloves, and eye protection. The flame is intensely hot, well over 1,000 centigrade at the nozzle. 2. Check with your local fire brigade before the first use. Some areas have burn bans during dry summers. A small flame in dry conditions can become a brush fire faster than you can step back. 3. Have a bucket of water or a hose at the ready before you start. Always never start without water within arm's reach. 4. Do not use a flame weeder near mulch, wood chips, dry leaves, fencing, or anything that can smolder. I have seen folks start a real fire in a pile of dry wood chip mulch using a flame weeder 6 ft away because the embers carried on the wind. Mulch and dry plant material can smolder for hours underground and burst into flame after you have packed up and gone inside. 5. After you finish, walk the area again 10 or 20 minutes later and check for any smoldering spots. If you smell smoke or see any wisp of vapor, douse it. Better to soak the area lightly with water as a final step. Used with these cautions, the flame torch is the cleanest, fastest, most genuinely satisfying weed killer the homestead can own. No chemicals, no drift, no residue in the soil. The fence line that took you 3 hours to hand pull last summer takes 20 minutes with the flame torch this summer, and it works on the same patches year after year. The propane is the only ongoing cost. The 5th method is the slow but unbeatable one: newspaper or cardboard plus mulch. For large patches you want to clear and keep clear a section of garden you intend to convert to a garden bed, a problem area along a fence, a patch where invasive grass has taken over. No spray and no torch beats the simple business of smothering the weeds. The method: mow or knock down the existing weeds first. Lay down 4 to 6 layers of plain newspaper or a layer of plain cardboard directly on the soil over the entire patch. Wet it thoroughly with the garden hose to weight it down and start the decomposition. Cover with 3 to 4 inches of mulch, wood chips, straw, shredded leaves, anything organic. That is all. Walk away. What happens next is slow but complete. The newspaper or cardboard blocks all light from reaching the weeds below. Without sunlight, photosynthesis stops, and within 2 to 3 weeks, the weeds underneath die back. The newspaper and cardboard break down naturally over 4 to 6 months, enriching the soil as they decompose. The mulch on top keeps the ground cool, holds in moisture, and prevents new weed seeds from germinating. For an area you can walk away from for a full season, this method is the most thorough. It does not damage the soil. In fact, it improves the soil by adding organic matter as everything breaks down. It does not poison anything you might want to plant later. It does not drift. It does not splash on the cat. And it works on the worst weed problems: established perennial grasses, thistle patches, even brambles. By the next spring, the area is bare workable soil ready for whatever you want to plant. This is the method used for converting a new piece of ground into a garden bed. It takes time. It does not give you the quick satisfaction of the vinegar or the torch, but it gives you a better result than any of them on a hard problem area. The 6th and final method is the one nobody wants to hear, and the one the old folks did most of all. After a rain, when the soil is soft, walk the area and pull the weeds out by hand. I know. The other methods sound more interesting, but here is the honest truth about weed pulling that nobody wants to tell you. Hand pulling weeds after rain is the only method on this list that removes the entire weed, root, and all in a single pass. The vinegar burns the leaves. The torch wilts the foliage. The salt poisons the soil. Only your hands actually take the whole weed out of the ground and put it in the compost where it belongs. The trick is timing. Wait until after a good soaking rain or after deep watering. The wet soil releases the root. A weed that would break off at the surface in dry ground pulls out cleanly in soft, wet ground. Get a hand tool, a small cultivator, a hori-hori knife, a dandelion fork, and work your way down a row. On a good evening after rain, you can clear 100 ft of garden bed in less than an hour, and every weed comes out, roots and all. The careful old folks did not see weed pulling as drudgery. They saw it as one of the small, honest rhythms of a healthy garden. 15 minutes a day, a few times a week, walking the rows, pulling what comes up, keeping the bed clean. Nothing is ever truly out of hand if you walk the rows every few days. Weeds become a problem only when they are left for weeks until they go to seed. This is the method the entire human race used for 10,000 years before chemical weed killers existed. It still works. It costs nothing. It improves the soil. It gives you 15 minutes outdoors in the evening light, which is itself worth something. Now I want to take a moment because here is where it all matters. Look at what we have just walked through. 6 methods, each one for a different situation. For small annual weeds in flower beds and walkway cracks, the vinegar and soap. For fence lines, gravel driveways, and places you want bare for a full season, the vinegar with salt added. For isolated weeds in driveway cracks where you have boiling water already on the hob, the kettle from the kitchen. For larger areas of small weeds in driveways, paths, and around garden edges, the flame torch. For converting a problem patch into bare, clear ground over a full season, the newspaper and mulch smother. For the small daily upkeep of a clean garden bed, your own hands after rain. Not one of these methods needs a commercial herbicide. Not one of them needs a glyphosate bottle. Not one of them needs a soil sterilizer that poisons the ground for years. Every one of them costs almost nothing. Pantry vinegar, table salt, water from the kettle, a $40 flame torch that lasts a lifetime, free newspaper and cardboard, and your own 2 hands. The hardware shop will sell you a bottle of glyphosate for $30 that does the same job as the vinegar. It will sell you a bottle of long residual soil sterilizer for $40 that does the same job as salt, plus contaminates your soil for a year or more, and can damage trees whose roots run under the area you sprayed. It will sell you another bottle next spring when the weeds come back every year. $200 a year easy on the bottles. There is no money in teaching folks that the answer is a gallon of vinegar, a cup of salt, a kettle on the hob, and a willingness to pull weeds after the rain. There is a great deal of money in selling $16 bottles of chemical herbicide to every household twice a year. So the hardware shop stocks the bottles, the adverts run, and a whole country sprays Roundup on their driveway cracks every spring when the answer's in their kitchen and their kettle. You can be one of the ones who remembers the old way. So here's what I want you to do. This week, look at the weed problem you have on your property. Be specific. Where is it? What kind of weeds? How big? How bad? For small weeds in flower beds and walkway cracks, buy a gallon of 30% horticultural vinegar at the hardware shop, add 2 TBSP of washing up liquid, and spray them on the next sunny day. $18 total, and the bottle lasts you a year. For fence lines and gravel driveways you want bare for the season, same recipe plus a cup of salt per gallon. Pick your spots carefully where the salt cannot reach things you want to keep. For 1 or 2 driveway crack weeds, boil the kettle. Carry it carefully, pour slowly. For larger driveway and path areas, invest in a $40 propane flame torch and a 20 LAB propane cylinder. Use it with care. You will have it for the rest of your life. For a problem patch you want to convert to clean ground, lay down newspaper or cardboard, soak it, and cover with 3 in of mulch. Walk away for a season. Come back in spring to clear plantable soil. And for the daily upkeep of your garden beds and garden edges, walk them after the next rain with a hand tool and pull what comes up while the ground is soft. 15 minutes a few times a week. Forever. Tell me in the comments below, what is the worst weed problem on your property right now, and what part of the country are you in? And if your ancestors had an old weed killing trick we did not cover, share it. The little family methods are exactly the kind of knowledge that gets lost when nobody writes them down. I read every single one. Next time, since we have been speaking of keeping the property clean and well tended, I'm going to show you the old way to sharpen knives and axes with stone and strop. The angle, the pressure, the small daily habit that means your kitchen knives and your work tools stay sharp for a lifetime instead of going dull in 6 months. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, pour the vinegar, boil the kettle, light the torch, lay the cardboard, and remember that the cheapest weed killer in the world is the one already in your kitchen. That is how the old folks did it. That is how it is still done in any farm or homestead that remembers. If these traditional methods have changed the way you look at the weeds in your garden, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the history they tried to bury. Let's plant the future together. The next treasure will be revealed soon.